All right, this is Block 3, Progressives in Power, Section 6, Woodrow Wilson, with a section known as the Federal Reserve Act. There are few things in the United States today less understood and more misunderstood than the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve System, which regulates how many dollars there are out there in the world, was created by the Federal Reserve Act, which was an act of Woodrow Wilson in 1914. Since Andrew Jackson destroyed the second bank of the United States in the 1830s, the United States had no central bank. And because of that, it had no central way to distribute currency. Nobody controlled how much currency there was, and because nobody controlled how much currency there was, nobody controlled or could try to control how much money was worth. And throughout the period of American laissez-faire, because when banks would give out money, how much that money was worth was really only kind of dependent on how solid the bank was. And if the banks went under, it was a mess. People would accept some money, but not others. There was no one in charge of how many dollars could be printed, how many dollars could be produced. And it was one of the things that led to the Panic of 1907. It led to the Panic of 1893, the Panic of 1881. All of these ups and downs of the traditional business cycle were exacerbated and made worse by a complete lack of a central bank in the United States. President Wilson, the progressive, says we have to regulate, control, and specify how much money the United States is actually producing and its value through the interest rate, the basic interest rate. So in 1914, Wilson passed what's known as the Federal Reserve Act, and it was a way for the United States to centralize and regulate its money supply. After this act passed, only the United States Federal Reserve System would be allowed to print U.S. money. And how much money was printed was going to be controlled by the managers of these regions. Now, if we look, the United States is divided into 12 different regions, still to this day, and those 12 regions each have a Federal Reserve governor, and then the president appoints some people also. So every year in Washington, D.C., the board of the Federal Reserve governors meet, and what they pretty much decide is how many dollars are going to be out there, and what the basic interest rate would be. The Federal Reserve prints money, lends money to banks for a particular cost, for a particular interest rate. And that interest rate is kind of used to determine consumer interest rates. There's a lot of mystery and confusion out there about what the Federal Reserve does. Basically, at the end of the day, all it does is regulates how many dollars are out there in the world. And with the regulation of how many dollars there are out there in the world, interest rates also get regulated. So if right now, for the last several years, the Federal Reserve has been printing lots and 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 lots of dollars, trillions upon trillions of dollars. And what it serves to do is keep interest rates very, very, very low. That's their goal. The Federal Reserve says we are not going to get any economic growth with high interest rates. So to keep interest rates low and to fund deficit spending that the United States is doing right now, the Federal Reserve prints and produces lots and lots of dollars. It is a movement away. Wilson's Federal Reserve Act is a movement away from laissez-faire economics. It is a movement towards federal control over the money system. And to be perfectly frank, it was something that was long overdue in the United States of America. It's very difficult to have a large, powerful, industrial nation without central control over its own money supply. So this was, in my opinion, a good law, a good act passed by President Wilson.